There is nobody listening to this show that isn't an incredibly hard worker. They would outwork anybody. You know, they're going to get the job done. They'll do as they promised to the client, but we forget who's back at home waiting for us.
We work so hard because we want to provide. And yet, because we work so hard to provide, that is usually the thing that kind of hamstrings us a little bit, you know, with the time.
I think there's probably more research people can do if they want to find out more. Hi, my name is Dominic Rubino. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is Larry Hagner from the Dad Edge podcast. Now, this is not what you typically expect to hear on my show, because here on this show, just for contractors like yourself, we talk about profits and productivity and how to get the most out of our people and operational systems and processes and how to put a strategic plan in place and how to have certainty in the growth of our business, right? Very business focused. Well, today we're going to talk about you and your relationship with your family. That's why Larry's here. He's an expert in that. I ran across him through some other things that I do, and I thought, you know, we should really have Larry on here. He'd be a great guest. And wow, I've already done the episode. I'm recording the introduction right now. I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you've got your headphones in, lock them in tight. If you're driving in the car, I think you're really going to enjoy this. Make sure you go and check out his website and even his podcast afterwards. There's some really cool stuff he says in here. Here's one of the first things I wrote down just as a teaser. Women want to be seen, heard, and safe. So here we are building our businesses, killing ourselves, working hard, fulfilling promises to everybody else. But what about our family? Well, Larry and I are going to dive into that right now. Let's get into the episode. We'll see you on the other side. Larry Hagner, how are you?
What's going on, Dominic? Good to be here, man.
Well, good to be back with you. I was just on your show, feels like days ago.
I know, right? The time just flew.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was such a great interview. I asked you to be on my show.
I'm honored. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I was looking at your website, and one of the pages on your site kind of hits you right in the face. I wonder, and maybe I'm sharing too much, but it was the one that said, "I didn't get married to have a roommate." That's a pretty good topic.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I wonder how many people out there are like saying amen to that. I might listen to this episode. You mean we're not going to talk about profits and gross profit margin today, Dom? No. Time to take a step back.
What if the profit margin was an unbelievable connection with your wife?
Yeah.
That could be the profit.
That could be the well, and let me add to that with my kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a client say to me just the other day, I didn't realize I saw my son's last at bat until it was too late. And it wasn't that he was missing stuff. He just didn't realize, you know, his son went through whatever baseball career, you know, from our community. But he didn't realize that was the last time he'd see his son at bat.
I'll tell you, man. Can I share a quick story on that?
This
is super fast.
That's what we're doing here today.
I have 4 boys, 20, 18, 10, and 12. And my 20-year-old, you know, got his driver's license at, I think he got his a little bit late. Like I think he was 17 when he got it for some reason. He was just kind of like waiting. I don't know why, but my 18-year-old went like on his birthday and got his. But right. I remember I would take, you know, I'm a big proponent of take my kids to school. I can't take all of them, but usually I'll take at least one of them to school. And my son, I took him to school. And then the next day he drove to school. And it's kind of like what your story about the last at bat, just like it hit me like a sledgehammer in the face. He came from school.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I go, you drove to school and back today? He's like, yeah. He's like so excited. I was like, man, I was like, dude, I was like, this really snuck up on me, man.
Yeah.
I was like,
right?
yeah, I was like, I'm the one that took you to the license bureau to get your test and everything. And I knew you're gonna be driving. And for some reason, it just didn't click with me. He's like, yeah. And I was like, listen, man, I go, can I take you to school one more time?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah. He's like, when? I was like, just sometime next week, whenever you want. He's like, how about next Wednesday? I was like, okay, great. So we scheduled it. I wrote him a letter and I drove him to school and we parked in the back in the parking lot. And I just looked at him. I had tears in my eyes. And I cracked open this letter and I wrote him this letter about just like, you know, his childhood and, you know, rites of passage and milestones and all this stuff. And it was thanking him for all the times that we got to spend that time in the car on the way to and from school or wherever it was, and how meaningful it was for him to grant me that wish to take him to school one more time, even though it probably wasn't cool for him.
Yeah. Right.
And, but yeah, it's like the last at bat. It's like, I think a lot of us get to a point where like, oh my God, like that that chapter's over. I don't like it's over. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize. And, but my son was gracious enough to give me that moment.
It's nice that you just brought the level of intentionality up a big chunk for a lot of people. And really people come to the show to learn about the business of the contracting business. So this is, if I say it's on the softer side, I don't mean that it's soft in its impact, right? I just mean it's that other part of ourselves that maybe we lock in a box and don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
Writing a letter. Yeah. You know what I see a lot is we sacrifice. Well, let me go back. There is nobody listening to this show that isn't an incredibly hard worker. They would outwork anybody, really. You know, they're going to get the job done. They'll do as they promised to the client. Wink. But we forget who's back at home waiting for us.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I want. And I think the reason I want it, Larry, is because I totally duffed that one with my kids for a while. And I had to pull it back from the edge.
I think a lot of us do that. You know, a lot of us, I think it's just really ingrained in us, you know, protect, provide, lead. And I think sometimes we, especially entrepreneurs, you know, we have a space where we help entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you, that is the biggest battle for entrepreneurs is the battle for the integration and or balance of, you know, putting food on the table, providing means, and at the same time, also providing that time. It's really sort of sneaky how it sneaks up on us. Mm-hmm. But, and here's the funny thing too. I love how you compliment your audience and you compliment your listeners, because, you know, it's really ingrained in us. We work so hard because we want to provide.
Yeah.
And yet because we work so hard to provide, that is usually the thing that kind of hamstrings us a little bit, you know, with the time.
Yeah. That servant leader mindset does come with, you know, you're carrying the weight, but when you're built that way, that's just what you know.
Yeah. Big
right?
time, man.
Make promises and keep them. But the challenge, and I'll say this out of two sides of my mouth, make promises and keep them, except I'm breaking promises to somebody else at the same time. Right. So I make a promise to a client, but I break a promise to my kids or my wife. And why is that easier? Why is it easier to do that?
I think it's easier to do that because I think one of the worst fears for us as men is we're not enough. You know, that's the number one human fear is we're not enough. And, you know, share a quick story of a really dark time that I went through in 2017, really, really dark time. And I, just for the sake of time of your show, I can get into details if you want, but I don't have to. But, I reached a point in my physical, mental, and emotional health where I was in a very dark place. And, my wife has been a stay-at-home mom for 19 years. And at that point in time, she was a stay-at-home mom for a decade. And my identity was I provide, right? And if I can't provide, then what good am I? I'm a burden if I can't. So that biggest fear of not being enough was very real and very dark. And there were times where in that process where I was like, my family would be better off without me. And I look back on that time. That's got
heavy written all over it. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was very heavy. But I'll tell you, I see a lot of men, and me included, get really caught up in that if I'm not providing means, what good am I, right? If I and take this back even to prehistoric days, right, where the men were the hunters, and if they got injured, they broke their leg, they couldn't go out and feed their family. I'm sure they were probably the same thing. Like, what good am I here?
Yeah,
like, I can't just stoke the fire. Like, that's not going to be good enough. I think
we've already got somebody for that.
Yeah.
It's funny that you use the hunting analogy. I mean, anybody listening to the show knows that I love hunting and fishing and the outdoors. And it's all, I just want to get back outdoors even as I'm talking to you right now. As a matter of fact, I leave for bear hunting in 2 days.
Bear.
Going for black bear.
Let's go.
Yeah, they don't know that. We're not telling them.
We won't tell them.
We're not going to tell. But the analogy that I use is that here I am, the leader of this group, in this case, a company. And, but I'll go to the family unit. You know, I'm standing in this cave. It's all smoky. It's a big cave. So there's a bunch of little fires around, little family units all there. And I'm looking over all of the people in this tribe that I have to take care of. And I feel a tug on my sleeve, and it's a little kid who says, I'm so hungry. And I'm like, oh my God, we got to feed this tribe. So we have to send our hunters out. They might be your estimators or your salespeople or your designers, you know? So I send the hunters out there, and my wife looks at me and says, did you give them a bow and arrow? Are those arrows sharp? Did you train them? And I have to think about those things for my team, but I forget of my own family. Did I give my daughter and son the arrows? Did I teach them to be sharp so they can go out one day and provide for themselves too? We always forget that. We definitely forget it in this show because it's not what your show, that's what you talk about. This show, we don't, we're here to talk about, like I said, gross profit margins and ideal clients and things. But the reason I have you here is because I think I want to remind us all that I'm a dad.
It's one of the biggest things, man.
Yeah.
I mean, our kids and our wives, especially our wives, they've actually have done statistics on this or polls or surveys or whatever. And I'm not going to pretend to give you a statistic because I don't know it. In fact, I heard a really funny quote. And I don't know if this is true, but it probably is that 80%.
Do it with confidence. Let's hear it.
People that cite statistics, 80% of the time they make them up. So
sure, there you go.
But they did. I do know there are statistics on this. So like, let's just take wives for a minute, or women in our lives, right? Studies have statistically shown over time that what women truly want is their basic needs met and a little more. And what does that mean? Now, I'm sure we all kind of picture like the woman who's like 27 years old who marries the 82-year-old guy for his gazillion dollars, right? And I think luckily those women are rare. But most women, what they want as it relates to finances is, can we put food on the table? Do we have a little bit in our savings account for retirement? Are we going to be comfortable? And then a little more. What does a little more look like? A little more looks like, hey, Mason, my son plays football. He's like, if Mason needs a new pair of football cleats, my wife isn't calling me in a panic and saying, do we have $200 in the bank? Because these are $200, right? So that's the little more. She's like, hey, we can buy these. We're good. But I think with a lot of guys, and I would include myself in this camp, humbly and also self-deprecating, there's never enough. And I don't say that because I'm greedy and I need tons of money and revenue. I just always want to know as a man, is my family going to have enough? Like, do we have enough? And sometimes we don't know what that enough is. And we go out and chase more and more and more.
Yeah.
So that's the trap I see a lot of guys fall into, including me.
I can tell you, I faced that one head on when I sold my first. I've sold a couple of companies in my lifetime, but my first big sale of a larger company, I was like, oh my God, we're going to have all this money. It's going to be fantastic. And I remember going for dinner that night. I'm like, we're going out and I'm going to get the most expensive steak on the menu. And I sat there and it arrived. I was sitting with my wife. We happened to be in Rome at the time. Like I signed the papers while we were traveling through Europe because this was a significant deal from a large company that I sold. And I remember tying into that steak and I took the first bite and I'm like, it tastes like steak. It tasted exactly the same as it did before. And it tasted exactly the same as it has my whole life. It didn't taste any different, man. It was, and I love steak. Let's get that clear first.
Yeah.
Right. I did not go for the carrots and the broccoli. I ate the steak first. Eat that, which is hardest to kill first on your plate. But it didn't change anything. Nothing. And if I sold that company for X, why didn't I sell it for X times 2, X times 4, X times 10? I'll bet you that steak would have tasted exactly the same if I ate it on a yacht.
Yeah. I mean, the scene might have been kind of cool, right? And having a steak in Rome, I'm not going to lie, that's pretty cool.
It still seems pretty cool. Yeah.
But you're exactly right.
Yeah. Hey, you a cabinet shop owner? Of course you are. You're listening to this show. Do you actually know what 1 hour of your time is really worth? It's going to be painful to figure this out, but it's the kind of pain you need. Most owners have no idea. So they burn their day on $10 an hour work. I'm not kidding. So what I did is I built a simple worksheet. It shows you your real number, not the guy next door, not the guy across the country, your number, called your revenue responsibility per hour. You just write it down as RR/H. You can go ahead and write that down right now. I'm sure you have a pencil in your hand, RRH. Now, once you see that number, because it's your number, you just can't unsee it. It will change how you spend every single day. So here's what to do right now. If you want that calculator, text the letters RRH. Text it to me. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. As soon as you text it, we'll send it off. You know what we didn't do? We didn't introduce you to the audience.
Oh,
Larry, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be talking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world? We should probably do that.
Well, I'll share a little bit of humor in this story. So if for those of you guys in the audience or you yourself, Dom, if you don't know who John Bernthal is, do you know who he is?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
He's the Punisher. He's the actor. He's like A-list actor. And I was on Bernthal's podcast called The Real Ones. This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's like, how'd the Dad Edge get started? And I have actually this clip pinned on my Instagram because the look on his face is absolutely priceless. And I was like, you want to know how the Dad Edge got started? He's like, yeah, what is it? And I was like, it was a Sunday morning. I'll never forget. Like, I opened up the blinds, I got up, and the sun just hit my face just right. And then suddenly it was like divine intervention that I knew everything there was to know about being a good dad and husband. And I just had to share it with the world. And the look on his face, man. And I was like, dude, I'm totally BSing you, man. Come on. Like, I'm lying. And like, he did what you did. He started dying laughing. He's like, oh, bro, come on, man. Are you serious? He's like, I didn't know who the hell I was talking to for a second. But no, man. I'll start here. I'm the father of 4 boys. Like I said, 20, 18, 12, and 10. Been married to my wife, Jessica, who is my soulmate, best friend, best mom in the world of 4 boys I could possibly imagine. I've been married for 23 years. I've known her 30 years as of this year. And the Dad Edge got started because I think it really started in my childhood. My mom and biological father got married pretty young at 21. They had me about 4 years later in 1975. And then about 9 months after I was born, my dad and mom went through a horrific divorce and he left. And I have no recollection of my biological dad whatsoever.
Wow.
It was about 5 years old or so. I started realizing I was in kindergarten. I was like, oh, all my friends have dads. So like some dads wear suits, some dads wear jeans, but dads would come and pick up my friends. And I'm like, literally, I never said this out loud to my mom, but my view is moms go out and find dads and like kids are brought to the porch by the stork. Like that's what I saw in cartoons. I'm not even kidding. Like,
I started to laugh, but it's so cute, right?
Yeah, it's like, that's what it was. And I was 5 and my mom told me one night, I'll never forget it. I still remember this vividly. And she's like, hey, I'm having a really good friend of mine over for dinner. His name is Joe. And I really want you to meet him. He's a really special friend of mine. And we work together. So that was my mom's way of like, I've been dating somebody I work with and it's not really awkwardly for you to meet him. And I was in my mind, I didn't say this to her, but I was like, oh my gosh, that must be the guy. That must be the dad.
Oh.
So this dude comes walking in my house. He's wearing a 3-piece suit. He was a data software engineer. He's got a trench coat on, handlebar mustache, feathered hair, briefcase, no iPads back then. I'll never forget like this dude walking in my house. I was like, oh my gosh. Like I saw him and I was like, that's a dad. Like that's a dad. Like that's what I said to myself.
Yeah.
My mom introduces me to him. I shake his hand. And the very first words this guy heard, I'm just like beaming, looking up at him. I was like, are you going to be my dad?
Oh, a lot of pressure on him, by the way.
Right. And, so I remember my mom like gasping. I think she actually gasped and he just like awkwardly laughed, but 6 months later they got married and, he moved in, my mom quit her job and for the next 5 years they were married. And the first year was great. The next 4 were terrible. He was a big drinker, drank a ton. And so did my mom. And, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of abuse. He beat me up pretty good, would beat her up pretty good. Cops were called to my house. Tons of times, breaking up domestic violence because the neighbors would hear. And finally, at 10 years old, they got divorced. Now, I remember being 10. I knew about the birds and the bees then. And there's a part of me that was like really relieved he was gone. But there's a part of me like, well, that's my dad. Like my last name is actually his. He legally adopted me and everything. Okay. And so I started asking my mom, I was like, wait a second, like this dude came around when I was 5. Like, where did I come from? And then my mom told me she was married before. I had no idea. And I was like, well, who's my dad? And she's like, here's his name and here's the photo album. And I was like, where is he? She's like, I don't know. And then I'll spare I'll just tell you the detail real quick. 2 years went by. I'm 12. I went up to the local rec center, the YMCA, to go play some basketball with one of my friends. And I knew his first and last name. And I'm getting my basketball from this clerk behind the desk. And he like looks over my shoulder and this woman is walking towards the building. And he's like, oh, here comes Mrs. Boyd. That was my dad's last name with the hockey payment. And I go, Boyd. And I don't know why. I was a curious 12-year-old and still am to this day. And I said, Boyd. I was like, what? You said her like hockey payment? He's like, yeah, her husband plays hockey up here. What's her husband's name? He said, Larry. And I was like, that's my dad's name. And so I went over to my buddy and I was like, hey, before we go into the gym, I was like, I'm going to talk to this lady. I was like, I think she's married to my dad. And he's like, wait, what?
That's some serious bravery. This is crazy.
Right? Thinking I was the same age as the kids in Stand By Me at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So she hands over the check. She's walking out the door. I tap her on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, I was like, excuse me. And she's looking at me like, yes. And I go,
no.
I go, what's your name? And she's like looking at me totally puzzled. She's like, Lisa, why? And I go, is your last name Boyd? And she said, yeah. And I go, are you married to a guy named Larry? And she said, yes. And I go, I think you're married to my dad.
That might have been the first she heard about it.
No, she knew exactly who I was.
Oh, okay.
And the look on her face was, she just looked at me. She's like, yeah. She goes, sweetheart, I know exactly who you are.
Oh,
She goes, I am married to your dad. She goes, would you like to talk to your dad? I was like, I would love to talk to my dad. And this is like 1987. So like we walk around the corner of the phone booth.
yeah.
It's a quarter. She's like, hey, I'm up here at the YMCA. I just made the hockey payment. I just ran into your 12-year-old son. He'd like to talk to you. And she just hands the phone.
Hands it to him. Accountability time, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, she did it in a very loving way, very respectful.
Of course, she
way.
sounded sweet, even how she
sweet.
interacted with you. Yeah.
They're still married to this day, actually. They've been married for like 45 years or something like that. Yeah. But I just remember this humble voice over the phone. And anyway, so this humble voice like just completely takes over. And all of a sudden, like I'm talking to my dad and one thing leads to another. We make arrangements to meet each other. We did meet each other. He lived 3 miles from us. I had no idea, which was wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You walked past him at the grocery store and didn't even know.
Probably, maybe at some point, and so anyway, we got together, we met. It was euphoric. He came to a bunch of my Little League games over the next 5 months. I spent time with him every single week. And then about month 5, it kind of got weird and awkward. And I wasn't really sure why. And then one day I call him, I'm 12 years old. And I'm like, hey, is everything okay with us? And Dom, I don't remember what the conversation was. I just remember it's me, it's not you. I can't do this anymore. And that was the end of our relationship. And dude, that about killed me. And,
that's a lot of pain.
Yeah. It was a lot
at a young age.
A lot of pain. Going back to how Dad Edge got started, I remember hanging up that phone. I kind of said to myself, whenever I'm a dad, I'm going to be a good dad. And I was kind of left it at that. My mom continued to date like all these ridiculous, like toxic abuser, alcoholics, drug guys, and every father figure was terrible. My mom got married a total of 3 times, and every guy she dated or married was the same dude. And so years passed. I go away to college, graduate college, meet a college sweetheart who is now my wife. I'll fast forward till I was 30. We're married for 3 years. First son on the way. I'm in a Starbucks for a business meeting in St. Louis here. And all of a sudden this dude walks in, catches my eye. And I was like, he didn't see me. I saw him. And I was like, holy crap, that's my dad.
Oh, it was him again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
18 years later. And one of the women that was on my sales team, I was also friends with her outside of work. Her husband, me, my wife, we double dated all the time. Like we knew them really well. So she knew this story. And she's like, hey, are you all right? Like, are you still here at this meeting? And I'm like, I don't know how to say this. I was like, but
that guy,
my dad just walked in here. And she's like, wait, what? The one from when you were 12? I was like, yeah. And she's like, where is he? And I pointed to him. And she just took it upon herself to walk over to him and have a conversation. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, the guy stood up and walked over to our table, shook my hand, and he was like, oh my gosh, like, how are you? And I wasn't nice, but I wasn't mean. I was kind of like very indifferent. And I was just like, I'm fine. How are you?
I can imagine your walls were up,
Yeah. So anyway, we exchanged pleasantries and he's like, hey, we should really get together sometime. And I looked at him and I was like, and at the time it was 2005. There's no smartphones. I literally took my business card and I kind of flicked it at him. I said, here's my card. You want to contact me? That's on you. And I just like left it at that. And I didn't think anything was going to come of it. And 3 days later, I got this crazy long email. And my dad was like pouring his heart out with regret. And that led to a breakfast that now has been 21 years of a relationship. And he's still married to the same woman. I have 2 younger half brothers. And my kids don't know any different. They know him as grandma and grandpa. And but how Dad Edge got started was, and this is the final part of the story, I was a dad for 6 years. I had a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. Three promises I made to myself when I got married. Number 1, I'm going to be a good husband. I'm only getting married once. Number 2, I'm going to be a good dad. And then number 3, I'll never hit my kids out of anger. And Dom, I broke all 3 of those promises. And Dad Edge got started because my 4-year-old, who's now 18, stepped out of line one night and I turned him around and I swatted him on the butt really hard. And I swatted him so hard that he hit the ground. And I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? And I went to go pick him up. And as he rolled over and he saw me coming to pick him up, he literally like gasped and like
shrunk,
like did one of these. And that killed my soul, man. Like still to this day, I see that little kid's face of fear that I was like this monster that I'd become. And that night I went onto Facebook, because that's what you do when you're an idiot and you want to distract yourself from what you just did and just look at everybody else's great life. And there was a button in the left-hand side of the corner that said create a page. And back then there was like, this is like 2011, like social media isn't what it is now.
Right.
And I just hit that button and I said, what do you want to name your page? And I just put the Good Dad Project, and I was the project. And I just thought to myself, I'm really bad at this, but I'm okay at other things. Like at that time I'd done like 13 years of martial arts. I was pretty good. And I was a great sales rep. You know, I was great with people. And I was like, what do these things have in common? Like the things that have in common is that I've learned. Like I've done nothing to learn this area of my life. Nothing. In fact, I just assumed I was going to wing it. So that page just became like a very public journal of like what an idiot I was. Still am. You know, just better.
Being intentional and humble.
Yeah. And all of a sudden that page just completely blew up, and I was being asked to like speak at churches. Like I'll never forget the very first time someone asked me to speak, and I'm like, you don't want me to speak. Like I'm a total moron. Like they're like, no, you want to come and speak about being a good dad. I'm like, I'm not a good dad. And they're like, no, that's why what we love is that you're authentic about it. So, and then 2013, I started a blog. So I wanted to write about it. And then 2015, I started the podcast, and that's the story. It's not pretty, but that's the story.
It's genuine. And if I say it's flawed, I say it as a compliment. It came from what's interesting is that you're very self-aware. And most of this audience, I haven't met everybody who listens to this show, but everybody who listens to this show has gotten to the point where if I give you what they physically do, in my mind, they've been working so hard, bent over. Let's say you're framing. You ever done any work framing?
A little bit.
Like you're just bent over all day, like banging together boards, or maybe you're doing cabinetry and you're installing. And at some point you got to stand up and stretch your back. And that's what they've done mentally in their business. They've been working so hard at building the company that they stand up and they sort of stretch their back and look around. They're like, we got a lot done today, but I'm tired. And as I opened with, I think we forget about who we're actually working for. It's not the homeowner. It's not the GC. It's actually the kids back home and my wife. And that's who I'm working for. That's the legacy I'm hoping to build. That's the tribe in the cave I'm supposed to be taking care of.
Yeah. And I was building everything outside of that, but that.
Yeah. I can't say, it's interesting that you, in your story, I see so many pieces of myself being that I was the dad on the airplane. I was the dad on the airplane, always on the plane, flying all the time. And it looks good on TV. And man, does it make for good TV, good movies? It's not good. It's not a great life.
It's not.
Eating $26 sandwiches at an airport kiosk.
They're terrible, by the way.
They're horrible. Well, actually, they're just the same as any other sandwich. They're just $26. Yeah. But all that's the fun part of. But I don't know. You know how you and I can have the same event, go to the same event, but I'll remember things different than you'll remember.
Sure.
So I remember the things I missed from my kids, or I'll remember the things that I didn't do for my wife, but she'll remember totally different things.
Yeah.
And really ways that I let her down, if I'm honest. Right?
Yeah.
Just a letdown. And it sounds like it's about taking the garbage out before I left, but it's really, her time is so tight. The last thing she needed to do was go out in the rain in her slippers and take out the garbage. And, oh, Dominic, now I got to do this too. That kind of thing. And I'm only imagining this because we haven't had the conversation. But I'll tell you, after I sold my last company, I was like, I got to be at home. I don't want to travel. Anybody that's tried to book me for speaking knows I don't want to travel.
Yeah.
I really don't.
What's really cool though is I've done a lot of speaking since I've been doing this over the past 12 years. And one of the things I love to do, they're like, what's your speaking rate? And I tell them. And then I'm like, I'll tell you what, why don't we just do a swap? If you fly my family there and pay for our lodging, we'll call it even. And it's usually cheaper than what
nice. So you all get to go.
Yeah. And that's
a great idea.
That's always been great, is to do something like that. And I'm always like, I value, experiences and adventure over stuff.
Amen. Like I don't need stuff. Look at my garage. I don't need more stuff. I don't need more tools. I don't. I need adventure and I need experiences.
Yeah.
I've got 2 great experiences coming up. People have heard them here. And I want to do those things. And I'm doing other experiences I don't even talk about that I go do with my wife and my kids. Those are fun, but I have to have the money to do them. So there is a balancing act, but I can't forget that I'm doing all that to be with my family. I'm not doing all that to go drop money in a bank that I can't even withdraw if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Go try and take $2,000 out of your bank today. They'll look at you like you're a Martian. No, that's not your $2,000, sir. And by the way, why do you want that $2,000? No, you have to make an appointment to take that money out. What? But I can go home right now and hang out with my family. I can say no to somebody and go hang out with my family. And saying no is probably one of the hardest parts for a contractor because we say yes to everybody except our family.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you come to be such a philosopher about all this?
Oh boy. I don't know if you want to give me that much credit. I've had a lot of deep thinking and I've had a lot of really smart people on the show, which maybe have just helped me be more of a sponge than anything. But I think being married, so like your audience is contractors. Like when you talk about framing, I kind of like laugh because my wife, like, I can't fix anything to save my life unless it's on YouTube and then I can somewhat figure it out. But
it's easy.
It's easy.
I can fix anything. I only need 2 tools, a hammer or a credit card, and I can fix it. And I started as a contractor.
Yeah. Mine is more the latter. Like, so, you give me a hammer, I'm going to hurt myself usually with it. But what's really interesting is, and I say this to a lot of guys who come to our table, and want help, whatever it is that their profession is. Like before this podcast, I had a guy who joined our group who's a financial advisor. And, he's like, I just don't have this area of my life figured out, like my wife and I feel like roommates, and like, I feel like I don't know how to, we've been married for 9 years and I don't know how to build intimacy or, it's like, we're literally living under the same roof and spinning in different orbits. That was his words. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, how long did it take you to be a financial advisor? He's like, oh, it was years and all these tests and certifications and everything. I was like, well, I'll tell you right now, I don't know a thing about being a financial advisor. I was like, I have one. I was like, but I really rely on his expertise because he's way smarter in that area than I am. I was like, but what I'll tell you here's what I'll tell you about being a dad and a husband. You can learn very tactical skill set things around emotional intelligence and connection and creating environments of psychological safety, creating intimacy, and knowing your wife's 3 needs, which by the way are seen, heard, and safe. Yours are respected, appreciated, and you need physical affection. A lot of people don't even know that. They don't even know the target that they're shooting at. I was like, the same is true for your profession or framing. I bet if I worked with you for a good week or 2, I might be a little bit more dangerous than I am now. But a lot of these things are literally their skills and we just don't know what they are. We don't know what they are and we don't even know what the target is usually. And that's usually one of the biggest misses.
You know what I'm writing down now?
What's that?
Seen, heard, and safe.
Yes, sir.
How many times have I left my wife alone because I'm working late? And this is my old job, my old careers or my old companies. I would jump on an airplane and go solve a problem because I was the hero in the Cape that could solve that problem. And by the way, all of those problems I solved, nobody, they say thanks, but do they really mean that? Right. This could have been done by email or just get on a phone call. Thank God we've got Zoom and different telecom right now. And I know, and we're tradespeople, so a lot of times things have to be moved or manipulated. You can't really fix stuff. But even now, you've got FaceTime on your phone. Show me where that's not square, plumb, or level, and I'll give you some really good hints on what to do to fix it. Right?
Yeah.
But if my wife's not seen, heard, or safe, I appreciate you sharing that. Actually, you said, so my wife needs to be seen, heard, and safe. So let me stop for a second. And I'm going to ask everybody in the audience to ask yourself, are you running this business and living the life so that your wife feels seen, heard, and safe? Right? Because I can control that. I can control the things I can control. What I can't control is what she does or says. What does a husband typically need? You said there were 3 of those.
Respected, appreciated, and physical affection.
Hey, you run a cabinet shop, a wood shop, a millwork shop, a closet shop. But listen, do you really know what an hour of your time is actually worth? Most don't. My free worksheet shows you your real number, not somebody else's. It shows you your number. It's called your revenue responsibility per hour. We write it down as RRH. As a matter of fact, text those words to me, RRH. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. And just say the words RRH and I'll send it off.
Can I give you something to really gel on here for a second?
Yes. Yeah.
What we usually do, kind of like Gary Chapman wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages, right? Which is physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, and gifts. And most human beings operate with 2 primaries, right? And most people don't even know their own love language. Like he's got a great test online, the love language test, where you can go find that out. And your spouse can go find that out. But usually what people do is they try to they try to love the other person in their own love language. This is why men want to touch their wives all the time, right? 72% of men are physical touch and words of affirmation. I can't remember the percentage of women, but it's extremely high that acts of service and quality time are theirs. So what does a man try to do?
Acts of service and quality time. We're coming back to time again.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Right.
If you really think of, the quality time, that really, especially for a woman, that's her love language. That seen, heard, and safe button is pretty, those are big buttons. But what we try to do is we try to fulfill the other person's needs and love language in our own. This is why men, we're physically affectionate with our wives a lot, right? And but what they really want is a lot of time just our time, right? But they don't want just our time. They want all of you, right? They want to know, are you listening to me? Do you see the things that I do, right? Most importantly, the safety button is the biggest of them all. Like the thing that I always say about the safety button is it's actually like a big oak tree. So there's tons.
Explain.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Go into that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Yeah. I was going to. So the safety is more like an oak tree, and an oak tree is big and it's got a lot of branches. That's a lot like what your wife's safety is. So when I say your wife needs to be safe, usually what I hear back from guys, well, she knows I'm not going to physically hurt her. I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. Physical safety is just one. Safety is also trust. He's like, well, she knows I'm not going to cheat on her. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like you go to the grocery store with 11 items on the list, you come back with 10. You wonder why she gets like all fiery about that. He's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal to her. Because the thing that your wife is asking, if I can't trust you to get the 11th item, what else can I not trust you with? What else did you not hear, or what else did you not see that was on that list? Why did you not understand why this was important to me or our family, that you get this thing? And guys will deem things as not a big deal, but it's a huge deal to her. The other thing too is like, I'll be home at 6 and you walk through the door at 6:15. To us, it's no big deal. But for her, she's like, you said you're gonna be home at 6. And like, so that's a big deal. So like they need physical safety. Yes. Emotional safety is being able to validate your wife's feelings, right? Not solving her problems, but validating her feelings, right? Also inviting her more into the conversation. So like the 3 words, tell me more, are so powerful to your wife versus why do you feel that way? Because one feels accusatory, one feels inviting, right? Also financial safety. So same thing we talked about, like wives need their basic needs met and a little more. Like, so they need to know, like, if we're fighting for every single paycheck and we're counting every penny, that doesn't feel very safe to me. That's why financial safety is big. And then there's this parenting safety. You're going bear hunting. And I always like to talk about these moms being mama bear, like when we reprimand our kids and we get really ferocious or we yell, or that triggers unsafety in them. Not that kids aren't deserving of discipline, but it makes wives uneasy when we bark a lot or we yell a lot. It really triggers that safety button for them.
It's funny you say that, and I say funny to me, but you've got 4 sons. I can only imagine what horsing around sounds like too in your house.
Yeah.
So my son and I, like, we wrestle or we take pokes at each other, and it's all in love. We're not actually hurting each other, but we can make the sound like one of us just got absolutely hit in the stomach, and it drives her nuts. And she can see that we're actually maybe 3 feet apart. We haven't even touched each other, and we can just make the sound like one of us hit the other. And she just loses it. I'm like, honey, we're standing on the other side of the counter from each other. She's like, it just drives her crazy. Yeah. And I think I'm being funny, because usually I think I'm funny, and I'm clearly not. But yeah, wow. Put an exclamation mark on that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where I come at this, and maybe the only way that I can add value to this, is I want people to have systems in the business so they can step back. I want them to take pride in their position so they can say, I'm the leader. I built a good team. You guys go take care of it. And none of that's instant. I would imagine none of this is instant either. Like being a good dad, not having a roommate for a wife. None of that's instant.
It's not. Just as you have a system in your business, I think everybody can understand that. Usually when I ask entrepreneurs when they come to our table is, do you have a system for your family? Do you have a system outside of your business? And usually what I find is men are just, and this is not our fault. We're not taught anything different. I mean, in fact, society will tell you, here's what also really pisses me off about society, that if you need help or if you need to go learn how to do this, you're weak, you're broken, you're less than. And if I didn't know how to frame, but I came to you and I was like, hey, I'd really like to learn this trade, you probably wouldn't think I'd be weak or broken. You'd be like, yeah, man, let me teach you this trade.
Yeah.
I'll teach you how to do it.
Carry lumber for a month. We'll see if you make it. That's the training system.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no. But in our community, I developed a system called the Brave Man Code, and the Brave Man Code stands for something. So brave. So the B stands for bond. So you lead in your marriage, right? You make her feel seen, heard, and safe. You understand how to validate her emotional state. There are several skills underneath all of these things, but that B is bond. R is raise. That's fatherhood. Creating environments of psychological safety for your kids where you become their 3 a.m. call, where you become the most interesting dad on the planet because you're interested. And kids spell LOVETME. So
hold on, they spell LOVE
TIME.
TIME. Oh, let that one sink in, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So having the skill set to be a good intentional father, right? Amplify. That's your business. That's your wealth. That's your money, right? The thing that funds everything. So 50% of divorces are because of financial issues, disagreements, or misalignment, or we just don't have enough. So that's amplify. V is vitality. Vitality, when I say vitality, a lot of people think physical body. It's not. It is your physical body, but it's also the things that what we say in our community is you are a guardian of your mind and your eyes. So like if you're death scrolling on social media to see what the right just said, what the left just said, what the liberals said, or what the economy's doing, or the price of gas, that's going to create a lot of angst. I'm not saying don't be informed, but watch your energy after you take in content like that, because your energy is the output.
Yeah, no kidding. There are certain podcasts when I get off there, I think everything's a conspiracy.
It's terrifying.
Just leave it at that. It's a great podcast, but I start looking around me like, why is that streetlight flickering?
I know. It's like
something's up.
Yeah. It's like suddenly I need all the cash in my mattress, and I need more firearms and all that stuff. Yeah. This one surprises a lot of people. The E in brave is enjoy. And the guys are like, you're going to hold me accountable to create accountability and things, SMART goals around joy. And I'm like, absolutely, I am. Because if you have no joy in your life, it's like having $5 in cash. Your kids come up to you and you don't carry cash. Like, hey, Dad, can I have $5? I don't have $5. Same thing with joy. You don't have any joy in your life. You won't have any to give.
Yeah.
So that's joy. And then the man part is M is movement. A is action. And just the simple thing to that is we're not motivated to do everything. We're motivated to do some things like eat and have sex and all those other things, but we're not motivated to do a lot. And what a lot of people don't understand is action is actually the spark for motivation. So if you don't feel like doing that thing, go do it right now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then the N is network. And that is most men live quiet lives of desperation and isolation where we're physically surrounded by people all the time. But a lot of men have very rusty relationships in their life, very shallow. Every question that we're asked, we can answer with good, fine, or busy. Right. And very few conversations.
You sound like you're in a truck full of lacrosse kids, because that's all they answer.
Right.
Good. How was the game? Fine. How'd you play? Good. I guess. Yeah.
And but the network is the conversations that men really want to have, even if we don't say it out loud, is like, hey man, how are things going on with you and Jessica? How's your communication? Are you guys going on dates? Like, how are things with the kids? How's your patience level? Like all those.
I'll tell you, I see this one all the time. Because as you know, we're business coaches, right? So we're called in to move the needle. That's what we do. Very serious. But at the same time, who does the owner have to talk to?
Right.
And it's not, we're definitely not you. We don't even claim to be in the realm that you're in. But who does a business owner actually say, hey man, I think we're going to have trouble making payroll? There's very few people you can say that to who will then go, okay, I get it. Well, let's figure it out. Instead of going, what do you mean you can't make payroll? I mortgage the house, do this and that. It has to be an intelligent, peer level conversation. And so it's interesting that you come at this and you also speak about your frailties, the things that you are still working on. When you talk about that network, you got to have people around you who you can just talk to, because you can only be alone for so long.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can't, oh my gosh, there's just the other day I'm going to go back to business here. I'm sorry. An owner that we were talking to had a problem. They put a guy on salary. He's a trusted guy. He wanted to show him a level of respect by putting him on salary. Salary means you don't have to worry about every single hour. There's consistency, all of the good things that go with being on salary. And what did the guy do? He started shorting his days, starting a little late, disappearing without anybody knowing where he was. And so now the owner started feeling left in the lurch. They'd made this promise to this guy, and the guy was breaking it. But who's he going to go talk to? Who's the owner going to go and work this out with? Let's just say his father-in-law. Well, if his father-in-law is on salary, he's going to have an employee's perspective. If his dad's been an hourly guy, his dad's going to have an hourly perspective. Who do you talk to? So you got it. Sometimes you just got to be in the right room with the right people. So
I agree, man.
If you got to be around the right network, as you said.
Yeah. Your network is your force multiplier, in my opinion.
Right.
Lone wolves starve and packs thrive. And the funny thing is you'll see this, guys will take a lot of pride in being like the lone wolf, right? The lone wolf is strong and stoic. And a lot of people don't know the fate of the lone wolf. The lone wolf dies. He's either injured and he loses the pack, he's going to die, or he leaves the pack on his own accord because he knows he's going to go die. But either way, the lone wolf does not have a pretty outcome.
Well, the lone wolf goes and finds another wolf to hang out with, or they die. Yeah, you can't be alone forever. No. There's always these heroic stories about, think of Grizzly Adams back in the day. Yeah, I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. It just sounds like such a romantic notion, out in zone in the wilderness. But he had that old trapper with the mule named Number 7 and all the other characters. He wasn't as alone as you think. And even if you watch Dick Prey Alone in the Wilderness, he wasn't really alone as much as you think. There was another guy down the lake he could go visit if he needed to. Very self-sufficient, but not entirely alone. That would be a very difficult existence.
Agreed. I think we all have lived in that existence at some point, or the majority of our lives, unfortunately.
So listen, this has been really good. I feel like we could go for 2 hours, but that's just not the format that we follow here. And when I was doing the research on you, I actually did run across that page on your site, which says you didn't get married to have a roommate. And that was originally our topic. I don't know if we covered that.
I don't know if we covered it. I'm definitely happy to dive a little deeper into that. But a lot of times the roommate syndrome happens because we don't know those needs.
Yeah. I think there's probably more research people can do if they want to find out more. So let me ask, if somebody wants to find out more or have a conversation with you, how do they do that?
I always direct people straight to the podcast. That's, I've got 1,500 episodes. I've been doing it for 11 years. It's always a great spot to start. We've got tremendous experts, celebrities who've been on the show, that kind of thing. For the roommate thing, the thing that you're referencing, that's a free resource that I created. That's a great place to start too. It's 25 intimate conversation starters. What that is, if you go to thedadedge.com/25 questions, you'll find that. And then I also have just it's like I explain the psychology behind these questions. So most people come home, the quality of your life and the quality of your relationships resides in the quality of your questions. So if you're asking yourself crappy questions, you're going to get, your brain is just like Google. It doesn't care what the question is. It's going to give you the answer. But if you ask better in-depth questions, so like, how was your day is a terrible question because it's going to get you those 3 words, right? But if you go home and ask your wife, what was the best part of your day? Tell me why it was so meaningful to you. You're going to get first of all, if you haven't asked that for a really long time, she's going to look at you like you have 3 heads. So that's part of the reason why I give some context in that free course is like, if you start asking your wife these questions, she's going to look at you like you're an oddball, but don't let that deter you. And
ask it anyway.
Yeah. Ask it anyway. And but you're going to get story. You're going to get connection, because that's why we even have conversations, is through connection. And a lot of us who have been married for a long time, we're like, well, I already know everything about her. She already knows everything about me. And when guys tell me that, I'm like, really? I'm 51. Like, how old are you? And they'll be like, I don't know, 40. I'm like, okay, well, are you the same guy you were when you were 25? And they're like, oh my God, no. I was like, what about 35? Are you different? And like, yeah, well, don't you think she is too? I was like, that's why it's great to just constantly have a deep knowing of each other.
Yeah.
And those questions will really help. There's 25 of them in there for you.
So interesting. Well, Larry, I've so enjoyed having you on the show. This is very different than what we normally talk about. And I think that's where the power is and just help. People are listening right now with their headphones in privately, listening in. I'm a big fan of confidentiality, but there's also a time when you got to reach out and talk to others. So hopefully people join, this conversation in whatever way they feel comfortable doing that.
I appreciate that, man. And can I do one last thing before we head out?
Yeah.
So all you hardworking dudes, right? Because obviously Dom thinks the world of you guys, and and if you're out there working hard, which I know you are, the next time you stand up to take a back stretch and you're listening to this podcast, whatever you're listening on, just take 30 seconds. Please leave Dom a review, a 5-star review. If you've gotten anything from his show from over the years or any amount of time, whether it's been 1 episode or 100, leave him a 5-star review and just give him some feedback. It tremendously helps us podcasters. And I'm sure he reads every single one of those.
I do. Yeah, I do. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. All right, sir. It has been great to have you on the show today. I think you're going to have an impact.
Appreciate you for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Well. Mr. Larry Hagner, thank you so much for joining us today to share your insights and remind us about the importance of family. Those at home taking care of us while we're at work, really killing ourselves, working as hard as we can to fulfill promises we've made in the market, but maybe, and I'm only going to talk about myself, maybe forgetting the promises I made at home. And if you're in that situation, go check out, Larry's website. There's lots of information there. There's lots of resources for all of us everywhere. Choose something that fits you. But if today just helped you to stop for a second and think, then that's what it was meant to do. So I'm glad Larry joined us, and I'm glad I was able to help you with that. One of the things that still stuck with me, we recorded the podcast already. Now I'm doing the intro and the outro, is that our kids and our wives spell love as Time. And yet here we are killing ourselves to run this business. Look, I would love to be your business coach, or at least have a conversation about how business coaching would work for you. Not because what's in it for me, but because I want predictability in your business for you. I want you to have time. I want you to be able to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do it with me now. And have that kind of confidence walking into our shop, walking out of our shop, going home on time, hanging out with our friends, all the things that we thought business ownership was going to provide. And it can. It can. It doesn't matter whether you're doing 600 grand a year, 2 million a year, 6 million. It doesn't matter. Your business can be what you want it to be as long as you're intentional about it. And I think what I learned from Larry today is that I also have to make sure my family is what I want it to be as long as I'm intentional about it. All right. Look, you guys know how to get in touch with me. If you're a cabinet maker, if you're an architectural mill worker, if you run a closet shop and you want to talk about business coaching, just call me and we'll talk. That's all. Let's just talk it through. My cell phone number, if you want to text me, is 315-903-7853. Now, that's just a holdover until the point in time and you and I can meet face to face. Hey, before we do that, I want to remind you and say thanks to everybody. Did you know that the Christmas Water Project is at 17,000 liters? So every time, if you don't know about it, every time you click like or subscribe or take some action, comment on a podcast episode like this one, or one of the YouTube episodes, go ahead and do that. Every time you do it, we count those. And the reason that we're doing that is I wanted to make sure that we took all of the energy of this community that we have here in the finished wood trades and put it to some use. And so we are sponsoring a community that lives next to a dump, an open pit dump in Nicaragua, and we're giving them water. So every time you click or like or subscribe or make a comment, all of that stuff, it gets added up as points, right? It's a simple dashboard. Well, we started in November. There were 60 times that people liked or clicked or subscribed. Now we're at 1,700, which translates to 17,000 liters, which is about 4,400 gallons. By the way, if you want to visualize 4,400 gallons, I did this for you. When you're driving down the highway and you see a tanker truck, it's those oval tanker trucks. It's about half of a tanker truck. So I thought to myself, hey, Rubino, give me a visualization on what half a tanker truck is like. Did you know that's a month worth of water usage for a regular North American household of 4 people? I did not know that. And I don't think I'll ever unsee that now. Anyways, that's what you have helped us donate to this community in Nicaragua. By the way, there are fishing trips upcoming and construction trips to that community in Nicaragua coming up. So stay tuned to the episode to find out more about that. look, maybe that's where you and I will have a chance to have a cup of coffee, glass of wine, an old fashioned, or whatever it is they drink down there. But until that time, thank you so much for checking in. I really appreciate your time and your headspace, and I look forward to serving however we can. We'll see you on the next episode.